Welcome to FHWA's Pavement Webinar Series. My name is Heather Dilla, and I'm one of the moderators of this webinar series. I am a Sustainable Payments Engineer at FHWA's Office of Pre-Construction, Construction, and Pavements. And in this role, I am responsible for the pavement design policy and how tools such as lifecycle cost analysis, lifecycle assessment, and resiliency can inform pavement designs. Helping me moderate this webinar series is Jen Albert, a pavement and materials engineer with the FHWA Resource Center. She has a background in pavement design and pavement management and works with me in the area of the pavement design policy. This is the first webinar of a 6-part webinar series being hosted by FHWA. And to kick off our webinar series today, Jen and I will provide you an update of the pavement design policy review effort, which really was what stemmed the idea of creating this webinar series. Next, we will turn it over to our colleague Latoya Johnson to introduce us to FHWA's Pavements Program. Latoya is a team leader for the pavement design and performance team in the FHWA Office of Infrastructure. In this position, Latoya manages a team of technical experts that set agencies' priorities, develop and implement policy, and assist in the deployment of related tools and products in the areas of pavement design, preservation, performance management, sustainability, and materials quality assurance. Next slide, please. Is it moving, Sharon?
Yes. Are you not seeing it move?
No.
Me neither.
Oh, we got to skip through these. We can edit this, don't worry.
Okay, I have to use this one.
And keep going. And one more.
This monitor instead of that one.
There you go. Okay. So back in 2017, FHWA received some unsolicited feedback on our pavement design policy. And as such, we committed to a thorough review of our policy and guidance. As part of this review, we held listening sessions in 5 regional peer exchanges, which you'll hear more about today. But one of our main findings from our peer exchanges was the need to share current and planned FHWA pavement-related activities, which is what sparked the idea of this webinar series. And then factors which should be considered during your pavement design are listed here in blue, such as materials, traffic, climate, maintenance, drainage, and life cycle costs. Next slide, please. FHWA also has guidance on how pavement or for pavement design considerations. This is published in the non-regulatory supplement. The document details how states should be meeting the pavement design policy, and it's important to note that there's specific guidance given on how to consider various considerations such as traffic, foundation, shoulder structure, the engineering economic analysis, referencing our life cycle cost analysis tech bulletin, rehab pavement designs, and safety. Next slide. So the goal of our review was to first do an internal review of all of our pavement design policy and guidance, and then discuss these documents with stakeholders and discuss concerns and find out recommendations on how we could improve. We really wanted to discuss and document any best practices or barriers to designing cost-effective pavements with the state agencies as well as industry stakeholders. Next slide. So to do that, we conducted first internal FHWA review that was between March and June of 2018. Then we held a listening session with industry back in December in 2018. And between March and July of 2019, we held 5 regional peer exchanges. In the end, and based on the feedback that we received, there was a lot of interest of bringing everybody back together and summarize some of the key findings, and that was done in a national workshop held in October of 2019. Next slide, please. FHWA in the internal review conducted a review of all of the guidance that we had that supplemented our payment lifecycle, our payment design policy, as well as that non-regulatory supplement. Part of the guidance included a review of our lifecycle cost analysis 1998 Tech Bulletin, as well as the 2015 Tech Bulletin supplement, which updated this this guidance document. We also conducted a division office survey and found out that there was strong reason to do further outreach, stakeholder outreach, which is why we decided to host the industry listening session as well as the peer exchanges with the state DOT representatives as well as the division office representatives. Next slide, please. So in the industry listening session, we had several participants attend. Here's a list of those that actually attended our event. It was a day-long session where they could discuss again the best practices, what they liked about the payment design policy, what was not working with the payment design policy, and were asked a series of questions as well. The results of this session was noted in the previous slide in the link, so you could find that online if you wanted to access that. But in summary, what we found is there is this struggle of balancing between the flexibility of the policy and consistency. Everyone wanted the policy and recognized the importance of it being flexible, that it is really context specific on how you design pavements. But in doing so, while writing something that is flexible and can be adapted to the current environment or situation, it's very hard to make it consistent. And so that was an area of concern of how do you balance the flexibility and consistency that was raised during the industry listening sessions. In addition, some other themes that were raised were the relationship with other regulations. Since the payment design policy was introduced, there has been other regs, especially the MAP 21, and the relationship from payment design to the TAMPs. This was brought up as, well, how does payment design fit into these newer current regs? In addition, there was some comments brought up about the context to which the payment design policy applies. It is very specific in there that it says payment design, but it's not very specific on, is this for maintenance or rehab projects as well, preservation? You know, when do you need to do a payment design, and what, you know.
Take a step with you, Miss Al.
Sharon?
No, that it was there. Okay. I thought you said that you were.
Oh, can you go back a slide, Sharon? I think we're going to have to edit that. Sorry. Okay. Then there were some other conversations related to resiliency and sustainability, as well as the expected service life. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen to give us an overview of the peer exchanges.
Thanks, Heather. So yes, after the industry listening session, we held a series of 5 regional peer exchanges. You can see in this slide the states that attended each of these peer exchanges. They were held between March and July of 2019, and we had excellent participation in these. We met with 49 out of 52 of the state DOTs and territories, including DC and Puerto Rico. And in the states, you can see a symbol. It represents who attended the peer exchange. So a triangle is a state DOT rep only. A circle or oval is the division office rep only. And then if there's a star in the state DOT and division office rep attended the regional peer exchange. Next slide, please. So these are the discussion topics that we had during the peer exchanges. We talked about statute, technical guidance, and research. For statute, we talked about, with the state DOTs, what's your mission and goals, and how does that relate to our regs, 23 CFR 626, our pavement design policy. We talked about technical guidance and best practices in pavement design. We had a small group discussion on current practices and barriers. And from that current practices exercise we did in the peer exchange, we have some additional information we're going to share later in the presentation on the outcome of that. And then for research, we kept a parking lot in the front of the room for each of the 5 peer exchanges, where anytime any of our stakeholders mentioned a knowledge gap or a research area or just something that they wanted more information on, we made a note of that in our parking lot. And also we're going to show how we're using that information here in the future. Next slide, please. So in general, some of the feedback we received from our peer exchange. First of all states agreed that there is a need for the pavement design policy. States liked the flexibility that's in the current policy. However, they do recognize that there is ambiguity in the policy and that it is being interpreted differently by each state. We also heard that the non-regulatory supplement and the LCCA guidance are outdated. I don't think that was a surprise to anyone. And the policy should link pavement design to other requirements, such as pavement management and the TAMP. And again, this is feedback that we receive consistently from all 5 regional peer exchanges. There are summary reports for each of the 5 regional peer exchanges that you can find at the link at the bottom of this slide. Next slide, please. After the 5 regional peer exchanges, we decided to hold a national workshop, and that was held in Washington, D.C. on October 24th, 2019. And for this, we invited back the participants from the industry listening session and representatives from each of the 5 regional peer exchanges. And the point of this workshop was really to summarize the discussion items and to share feedback. So industry could hear what the states were saying, and the states could hear what industry was saying. And we do have a summary for this as well at the link at the bottom of the screen. Next slide, please. Oh, so the key priorities that we identified. So based on our stakeholder outreach, we brought all this information back and had some discussions internally within Federal Highways. We are exploring our options for regulatory action, also looking into updating guidance, looking at training needs, as well as the knowledge gaps where perhaps we need some research. We also heard the comments about linking pavement design to pavement management and are working on an effort to develop a framework that links pavement design to pavement management. And I'll talk about that here in the next slide. We also have a clearinghouse of the current state of the practice that we're working on. And we developed an implementation plan, and from that came our webinar series. So let me touch on a couple of these specifically. Next slide, please. So first, the framework for linking pavement design to the TAMP. So we created a task order under the pavement program's IDIQ to conduct a case study and to facilitate a workshop. So we're working directly with New Jersey DOT to develop a framework that incorporates their policies and procedures and looks at, how can New Jersey DOT link the pavement design process to the pavement management and ultimately their TAMP, open up the lines of communication so it's not just informing in one direction, but also back from the TAMP to pavement management and ultimately to pavement design. So we're working directly, like I said, with New Jersey DOT, but we also included discussions with other states because we recognize that, you know, to develop a generic framework, we recognize that we have rural states and urban states, we have small states and large states, centralized and decentralized. So we really need a generic framework that can be incorporated into a program, no matter how that state is set up and operates. We also are planning a workshop for later this year where we can try to apply that generic framework to various state DOTs and let them incorporate this framework so that they can be linking pavement design to these other areas. Next slide, please. Another thing we're working on is a current state of the practice clearinghouse. So as I mentioned during our regional peer exchanges, we had an exercise where we talked about the current state of the practice. So what pavement design methodologies are you using? How do you account for your economic analysis? How do you update your pavement design policies? Who reviews it? How often does that happen? So we had a pretty detailed series of discussion topics that we went through with the states. And as we were going through this, the states actually came to us and asked, is there a way that you can share this information with us? We feel it would be really valuable if we could see, you know, what our neighboring states are doing, or if there's, you know, we're thinking about moving to pavement ME design and our neighboring states doing that. Can we reach out to them and talk to them? So we're creating an interactive website that shares this information on the current state of the practice in pavement design. So this is just an example of a mock-up we're working on right now, but the website would start with maybe 3 main categories, and then next slide, please. And then if you click on one of those categories, it would bring you into a more detailed screen. So for example, if I clicked on the pavement design economic analysis on the last slide, it could bring me to a screen that looks something like this. We're still working on the you know, look of how this is going to look, but you would see a series of topics or discussion items. And if you click on one of those topics, the state map would highlight to show you which states are doing that particular thing in pavement design. And if you want even more detail, you could click on that state. So for example, on this slide, you see, does your policy allow for alternate bidding? So if your state allows for that, it would be highlighted. And then if you want more information on what that state's doing, you could click on that state and get even more detailed information. So this is something that we're working on and is hopefully coming soon. Next slide, please. And the last thing I'll talk about is our implementation plan. So as I mentioned during the regional peer exchanges, we kept a parking lot of items that the stakeholders were saying they wanted more information on, whether it was research needs or knowledge gaps or updated guidance information. And after our peer exchanges, we came back and put together this implementation plan that included all of those items. We had a list of over 100 items in this implementation plan. And so we took a little time to kind of group similar topics. And then we reached out to our colleagues within federal highways and realized there's a lot of stuff going on in these areas within federal highways, whether it's, you know, on other teams or whether it's at Turner Fairbank Highway Research, the research arm of our federal highways. So through that, we created this webinar series. This is our first of 6 webinars. So next slide, please. And so between now and March of 2021, we have 6 webinars scheduled, ranging from topics from pavement design to pavement preservation, We have one on the asphalt program, one on the concrete program, and one on sustainability and resiliency. So please plan to attend these workshops if your schedule allows. If not, we are recording these webinars so that you can come back and watch them at your convenience. I'll also put a plug in for our newsletter. Please feel free to sign up for our newsletter. And if you do sign up for this, you will receive announcements whenever these webinars or other information sharing from Federal Highways Pavement Program is coming up. You'll receive a monthly announcement on what's happening. Next slide, please. So this is our contact information for Heather and myself. If you have any questions or comments or feedback on what we're doing with the pavement design policy review effort, please feel free to reach out to either Heather or myself. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Latoya. So next slide, please.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. So again, I'm Latoya Johnson. I'm the team leader for the pavement design and performance team at Federal Highway headquarters. And, I'll just start by asking a few questions. Have you ever had questions about Federal Highways pavement and materials program? What are our key initiatives and programs? Who are some key points of contacts? What is the funding for the program and how do we distribute and determine what activities will be funded? Have you had questions about Federal Highways training opportunities or opportunities related to workforce development? So hopefully in the next few minutes, I'll be able to answer a few of those questions for you in the next slides as we talk a little bit more about the program and I provide an overview. Next slide. So first, let's just start in the beginning. What's the mission and the goals of the pavement and materials program? Essentially, no surprise, we're a federal agency. We want to provide leadership and technologies for the delivery management of safe, durable, cost-effective, and sustainable pavements that meet our customers' needs. So as we do that, we want to optimize pavement design, construction, and maintenance to address issues related to the environment, traffic, safety, costs, and functional considerations. Next slide, please. And we do that really through three objectives. The first one, we've already talked about it in our mission and our goals, but improve existing technologies and develop practices and tools for practitioners which improve longevity, safety, and sustainability of pavements. Secondly, we want to address stakeholder needs by building strong research and deployment-focused partnerships. And thirdly, we want to deliver technologies and tools that address those stakeholder needs. And so I think, as we continue to talk today and really over the next few months as a part of this webinar series, I hope that you will see that our program is very much focused on performance and optimized pavement performance, but understanding that we can only do that through continuous communication and involvement with our stakeholders. Next slide. So I've mentioned some of these things, I think, as we talked about the mission, the goals, and then the objectives, but our program is really focused around 7 program areas. And this is fairly new. A few months or over the last few months, we've taken a step back and really looked at our program and decided, what are the key areas right now? Where are the needs? Where are the resources? Where do we need to be really providing leadership and tools and technical assistance to our stakeholders? And so the 7 program areas are pavement design, materials, quality assurance, pavement construction, pavement management, pavement preservation, and rehabilitation. And at the center of this is sustainability and sustainable pavements. And that's really just understanding that in all of the 6 program areas that are kind of on the around the spoke, at the core of all of those are, sustainable practice practices and efforts that make our pavements sustainable. Next slide. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about the organization of Federal Highways Pavement and Materials Program. This is really a cross-unit program. There are folks from the headquarters Office of Infrastructure, of course, as I represent the headquarters. There are folks from Turner Fairbank Highway Research Center, the Resource Center, Federal Lands Highway Division, as well as Federal Aid, the Federal Aid Division offices. And so we really come together working with our stakeholders to make this program work. Here I've highlighted the program, the program's leadership team. So from the Office of Infrastructure, you have Gina Alstrom from the Pavement Materials team, myself from the Pavement Design and Performance team, and Connie Yu from the Construction Management team. And we all operate from the Office of Infrastructure's Office of Pre-Construction, Construction, and Pavements. From Turner Fairbank Research Facility or Highway Research Center, we work with the Office of Infrastructure Research and Development, and the leadership team from there includes Jack Uchev, who is a team leader for the Infrastructure Materials team, Catherine Petros, who's the team leader for the Infrastructure Analysis and Construction team, and then Jean Nimi, who is the team leader for the long-term infrastructure performance team. From the Resource Center, Chris Wagner's Pavement and Materials Technical Services team, a key piece of our activities. Can you go back a couple slides? One more, yeah, right there, thank you. And then from Federal Lands Highway, we have Mike Delaire from Eastern Federal Lands. And then from the Federal Aid Division offices, we have one pavement and materials point of contact or engineer in all 52 of our division offices. So again, it's very much a team effort. Federal Highway has recognized the importance of optimizing pavement performance, and as such, we have dedicated resources across the agency that work towards those goals. Next slide. So funding. This is always an important part of the conversation, right? Where's the money? How's the money being used? In this year's authorization, FY 2021, Federal Highway was authorized about $70 million of what we call TDIP funding, which stands for Technology, Innovation, and Deployment Funding. And per law, that funding is supposed to be used to accelerate the implementation and delivery of new innovations and technologies that result from highway research, and that its development benefits all aspects of highway transportation. So again, Federal Highway gets about $70 million in FY 2021 of this TDIP funding, and about 40 million or 38.5 million of that actually goes to the Infrastructure Research and Technology Program over at Turner Fairbanks Highway Research Center. As a part of that split, 25.5 million of that is designated for highway research and development, and within Turner Fairbank, they really decide how that will be divvied up. A small portion of that, or some portion of that, is designated for pavement research, specifically for pavement and materials research, and then $12 million of that $38.5 million of TDIP funding that's designated to Turner Fairbank Research Highway Center is designated specifically in law for the Accelerated Implementation and Deployment of Pavement Technologies Program, which you probably heard about. It's called, affectionately called APT, the APT program. Next slide, please. So just a little bit more about APT, because like I said, it's about $12 million of funding each year that is, again, in law, initiated in MAP 21, designated just to advance the latest and best pavement technologies through federal highway stakeholder collaboration. So this funding is used for deployment and implementation purposes. We do a lot of training, etc. But it's specifically not supposed to be used for research. So that's what makes this funding different, and I think very, very important. And so I'm sure many of you, whether you know it or not, have participated in activities or demonstration projects, workshops, training that was most likely funded through the APT program. Not only does the law tell us that it can only be used for deployment and implementation activities, the law first again in MAP 21 and then continued as a part of the FAST Act also highlights some program goals. I'm not going to read the 5 goals, they're listed on the screen, but you can really see that they really cover the gamut of those program areas that I talked about a few slides ago. Everything from materials, recycled materials, life cycle cost of pavements, looking at construction, maintenance, rehab, also safety and how it impacts safety, non-destructive technologies, and again, really how can we optimize the performance of pavements through implementation and deployment of pavement technologies. Next slide, please. So since 2013, when the program was first initiated, again, we have delivered resources to public agencies, industry, academia, in every state. We've done training, we've done technical assistance, workshops, webinars, and publications, you name it, we've done it. If you have any questions or you want more information as a part of the requirements for the program, we do publish an annual report. The annual report, I think right now we have 4 annual reports available. So please, I encourage you, go to the link and flip through some of those annual reports. They'll give you, I think, a really good feel of some of the things we've been doing, some of the opportunities that are there. And if you have questions or if you want more information about anything that you see in those reports, please let us know. And we should have a new report towards the end of this year or early next year that will be published. So looking forward to getting that out and sharing more about things that we're doing and things that we have planned in the next year or so. Next slide, Sharon. Thank you. All right, so we talked about the money. We talked about this key program. The next kind of piece to this puzzle is, how do we go through the process of determining how that money will be spent? And so we have a strategic planning process that we do every year as a part of the Pavement and Materials Program. In March or April, all of the staff from headquarters, Resource Center, Turner Fairbank Highway Research Center, even federal lands and the division offices can submit one-page proposals to the leadership team. And those proposals, I should say, are really built on feedback that we've received from stakeholders through the year, where we've identified needs or areas that we think that we can help stakeholders fill gaps. In April, the leadership team starts to meet. And as a part of those meetings, we assess our strategic plan, we assess our mission, our goals, our objectives for the program, and then we review every one-page proposal that is submitted. And I think last year we probably had about 60 or 70 one-page proposals that were submitted. But we review them, we prioritize them, and we determine how we're going to fund those activities. And from that process, that discussion, that deliberation, we develop a tactical roadmap that outlines all of the key activities, how much funding those activities will will receive, and which office is responsible for carrying out those activities. So all of that, it starts in April. It usually goes through September. It's a very long and tedious process. A lot of back and forth between the leadership team and the team members to really get a good understanding of the proposals. And then we try to finalize all of that in the September timeframe. And then after September, we come back and we update the staff, the teams, on what has been approved to move forward for the next fiscal year. And we also brief our leadership at Federal Highway so they are aware of our key priorities and key activities for the upcoming year. Not only do we have to brief our leadership within Federal Highway, but we also have to report up that information to the departmental level, to the U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Office. And that information is submitted, and it is included as part of the DOT's annual modal research plan. And that is a plan that DOT works to publish every year that provides an overview of key department research and deployment activities, and some information on the funding that's used to support that. Next slide. All right, so again, we talked about the missions, the objectives, the folks at Federal Highway that are involved, and the funding, and this process for determining how funding is divided up. Key to all of that are our stakeholders, and I'm really proud to say that I think our program, we really put our stakeholders first. We are involved in a lot of workshops and peer exchanges, pool fund activities, demonstration workshops, interagency agreements. I mean, I really think that we try to exploit as many of opportunities that are out there to gather that feedback that is important for moving our program forward. And so, as a part of that, our key stakeholders are international, federal, state and local agencies, industry, academia, you name it. I think we really try to be plugged in into organizations and activities that represent all of those stakeholder agencies. Next slide. So not only do we try to partner and, kind of leverage by working with our partners in various conferences and workshops and activities they sponsor, and then we have our own that we sponsor. Currently, we have really 6 ongoing stakeholder feedback groups where we bring folks together, bring stakeholders together, and we have discussions and conversations in various areas. 2 feedback groups that are new this year, was the first year that we're starting them, are the asphalt technical feedback group and the concrete technical feedback group. And these groups are really focused on performance for those types of materials, and they really get into all 7 of those program areas that we talked about earlier in the presentation. And they ask questions about how do those 7 program areas, issues and activities in those 7 program areas, and how do they impact those specific materials. The pavement preservation technical feedback group has been around for many, many years, probably about 20 years. We've kind of rebranded this year and changed the name, but again, the purpose, the goal of it, I would say, is still the same, in that we bring together representatives from all of those stakeholder groups from the previous slide to talk about key issues and challenges for stakeholders in the area of pavement preservation. Sustainable Pavements TWIG, or Technical Working Group, has been around for about 10 years now. This group meets twice a year to talk about issues related to sustainable pavements, everything from LCCA to LCA to resiliency, etc. The ME User Group includes all 52 states. DOTs are represented and invited to participate. They come together once a year to talk about issues related to pavement and ME. AASHTO is a key partner in that discussion, in that meeting. but it's usually a 2 to 3 day meeting, again, that we have every year to talk about issues related to pavement design. And then lastly are our pavement and material stakeholder workshops. These are not held on an annually basis, but I would say every 2 to 3 years, Federal Highway brings folks together from, again, all of those key stakeholder groups to talk about our whole program. And the last one was held in October of 2019, where we brought about 20 external stakeholders together. We ran through presentations of almost all of those program areas and asked some very poignant questions through breakouts. Where we really expected those stakeholders to be honest and critical of our program and things that they thought we could do better and things that they thought that we were doing really well. And we've tried to take that feedback not only from those workshops but from all of these groups, take it back and incorporate it as a part of our strategic planning process. Next slide. So very quickly, I want to talk about a couple of key initiatives that are going on that you should be aware of for the pavement and materials program. The first one, our program will have an innovation in EDC 6, Everyday Counts, round 6 this year. It's on targeted overlay pavement solutions, or TOPS. I won't go into a lot of this right now, but if you go to that link, you can find out more information about it. As a part of this effort, within the next few months, we'll be holding workshops and summits related to TOPS. And those meeting minutes and recordings, if you can't attend, they will be available online. So I encourage you to go to the link and find out more about it, and please let us know if you're interested. The second initiative is called the Demonstration to Advance New Pavement Technologies Pool Fund. And this is a new pool fund. The solicitation just went out in September. And this is an opportunity for Federal Highway to continue to kind of leverage our relationships with our state DOT partners and support and showcase the implementation of innovative pavement technologies, products, and processes as we work towards those goals and that mission that we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. Next slide. So currently we've identified 3 topics of interest for the pool fund. They're listed here as related to the development of balanced mix design for asphalt and performance engineered mixture for concrete programs, implementation of strategic pavement preservation programs, and then integration of sustainability and resiliency into the decision-making process, technical frameworks, education, and other stakeholder engagement. So those are what Federal Highway has identified right now as topics of interest and somewhat of a priority for our program. However, when the technical advisory group is convened, there will be opportunities to maybe consider some other topic areas as proposed by state DOTs. Next slide. So detail a little bit about what we expect to happen as a part of this pool fund. Federal Highway will be the lead. We anticipate that it'll be a 5-year pool fund. But probably the most important part are these contributions and expectations. So Federal Highway plans to contribute $2 million a year to the pool fund. As a part of that contribution, we will support up to $250,000 and up to 100 hours of technical assistance to the demonstration projects that are selected for the pool fund. In addition to the $250,000 and 100 hours of technical assistance, we will also be providing resources for developing case study reports and videos, and a website for publishing related documentation from the projects, as well as hosting peer exchanges and other showcase opportunities for the lessons learned from those projects. For state DOTs, the annual contribution is a minimum of $10,000 per state. And as a part of that contribution and commitment to the pool fund, it'll be expected that the states would submit and administer these projects. They would participate in pool fund meetings. They would collaborate with other states and Federal Highway to advance initiatives, and that with our help, they would develop project reports to document the projects and the outcomes. Next slide. So here's the link to the solicitation. It's solicitation number 1542. Please go to the website to find out more about it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the other POCs that are listed on the solicitation. Next slide. All right, so very quickly, I want to try to wrap up and talk about a little bit about some training opportunities as well as opportunities related to workforce development at Federal Highway, because we've had a lot of questions about this. So the training arm of Federal Highway is NHI, or the National Highway Institute. And, very simply, they offer instructor-led, web-based, web conferencing courses to really improve the condition and safety of transportation infrastructure by building the skills and enhancing job performance of transportation professionals. Next slide. Currently, we have several instructor-led courses in the pavement and materials portfolio at NHI, but specifically I'm highlighting, I think, the top 3, at least in the last fiscal year. Here on the screen, the one that's received, I think, the most participation is entitled Constructing and Inspecting Asphalt Paving Projects. We had 5 sessions and 133 participants last year. And I should mention that given our current situation, that is also currently being converted to a virtual course. So we're looking forward to having that virtually and the opportunity for more people to take that course virtually. Next slide. Currently, we talked about virtual. We have several web-based trainings available. The number 1 web-based training right now, as far as registrations, has been the Introduction to Asphalt Pavement In-Place Recycling Techniques. But we also have one, Portland Cement Concrete Paving Techniques, that's been of great interest. So again, I encourage you to check these out. And also, like I said, these are just kind of the ones that have been registered for the most. There's some others there that, again, may be of interest. And so please take a look at the catalog and see if there's some other opportunities for you. Next slide. I do want to say that our program, the Pavement and Materials Program, is continuously working with NHI to develop and update and identify other training needs and opportunities. We just released the update for our QA, Quality Assurance for Highway Construction Projects. That's an instructor-led training course that we're really excited about hitting the road and providing that. The pavement management course is currently being updated, and it is scheduled for release in late 2021. It will be a virtual course. You may recall that the current course is instructor-led, but the new course will be virtual and web-based. And then lastly, I do want to mention, because there's been a lot of interest and questions about resiliency. Our program is currently working with Federal Highway's Office of Environment to develop a course in resiliency. And as a part of that course, there will be a module or some case studies that are specifically related to pavement and materials. Next slide, please. So now shifting a little bit from training to workforce development. Federal Highway does have an office or Center for Transportation Workforce Development. It was established in 2019, and it really brought together some resources from a couple different offices. They brought them together, I think, to kind of leverage the expertise and the experience that we already had in Federal Highway to better serve the needs of our partners. And as a part of that program, because it's so important, they manage a $12 million budget, and they continue to leverage established programs with our partners. And so hopefully as you flip through the next couple of slides, you'll see how we are working with our stakeholders to continue to build opportunities in this area. And even specifically some of our pavement and materials industry partners are working with this office currently on a few initiatives. Next slide. So the vision, of course, no surprise here, is to ensure that the transportation industry has a skilled and diverse workforce, and they do that again through collaboration with our partners to proactively deliver innovative programs that meet current as well as emerging transportation workforce needs. Next slide. Some opportunities here listed, and I think it's very important to note that we don't just start when folks are adults. As a part of this program, we have programs that start as young or as early as middle school and high school, through college and undergrad and grad. And I'm happy to say that I'm a product of some of those programs. So I think they work. I think they're great. And I definitely encourage you that if not necessarily for you, because you're probably an adult, but if they're kids or other young adults, students, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to point them to the website to get more information and find out about those programs. As a professional and a practitioner, we offer on-the-job training support services, transportation education development program, and I really want to point out this last highway construction workforce partnership, because this is a key effort that's going on right now, where this office is reaching out to our partners throughout not only pavement and materials, but other industry partners to kind of leverage what we know and what we understand, and really to support current and emergent workforce needs in transportation. Next slide. So here's the website to the Center for Transportation Workforce Development. They have a lot of great resources there, webinars, recordings. They host webinars on a regular basis, one-pagers, as well as presentations. And the director for this office is Karen Bobo. She is an excellent resource. So I encourage you, if you're interested, please reach out to Karen and her office for more information. Next slide. So with that, I know that was a mouthful, but I hope you gained a lot more knowledge about our program and how we operate. If you have any questions, my contact information is there. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will just just re-emphasize what Jennifer said. Our website is there. But more importantly, if you go to that website, we have a link to our e-letter, our monthly e-letter that we send out. Please sign up so you can continue to stay engaged and find out what's going on as a part of the program. Thank you. Have a great day. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out for more information. Thank you.